Hare Krishna, nice to see everybody here. So let's see. Nandarani, would you like to read the English for the Mangalacharana? You there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, I am. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Yeah, let's see. How about Karuna Sindhu Prabhu? Let's write this one up.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
My pronunciation. Would you like
Hare
to read?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, would you like to read the Sanskrit and the Bengali?
Yeah, I can read, Prabhu.
Okay, just a moment, I'll turn it on. Hare Krishna, nice to see everybody here today. So, let's see. Here we go. Okay, so Karuna Sindhu Prabhu, you can read the Sanskrit, and Nandarani, you can read the English. We can't hear you, Prabhu. Karuna Sindhu Prabhu, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at his lotus feet.
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnav devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls.
Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamahyam tadadi swapadantikam.
When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet?
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother, Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates, I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Shri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka.
Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha.
O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you.
Ajanalam Pita Bhujau Kanakavadattau Sankirtanaikapitarav Kamalayatakshav Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharmapalo Vande Jagatpriyakaro Karunavataro.
I worship their lordships Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, whose long arms extend down to their knees, whose beautiful complexions are radiant yellow like molten gold, and whose elongated eyes are like red lotuses. They are the topmost Brahmins, the guardians of religious principles for this age, the most munificent benefactors of all living entities, and the most compassionate incarnations of Godhead. They initiated the congregational chanting of the names of Lord Krishna.
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute.
O my dear Krishna, O ocean of mercy, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye.
I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Rishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna.
Chiradatam Nijagupta Vitam Swaprema Namamritam Atyudaraha Apamaram Yovitatara Gaura Krishno Janibhyastam Aham Prabhadye.
The most munificent Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Gaura Krishna, distributed to everyone, even the lowest of men, his own confidential treasury in the form of the nectar of love of himself and the holy name. This was never given to the people at any time before. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Uttama Adhama Kichuna Bachila Yachiya Dilaka Kola Kahe Premananda Emana Goranga Hridaya Dhariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaho Goranga Laho Goranga Girunamure E Jana Goranga Bhaje Sei Hoyo Mar Pranare.
Never discriminating who was a fit candidate, elevated or degraded, the son of Mother Sachi magnanimously accepts one and all unto his lap in a loving embrace, crying, "Come to my fold, come to my fold." The poet Premananda Das begs you all to constantly chant the sweet name of Krishna while holding tightly to that son of Mother Sachi in the innermost core of your heart. Worship Gauranga, speak about Gauranga. Oh, please take to Gauranam. Whoever worships Gauranga is my life and soul.
Anandalila Maya Vigrahaya Hemavati Vyachabhishandaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste.
O Lord Chaitanya Chandra, O Lord whose form is full of blissful pastimes, O Lord whose complexion is as splendid as gold, O Lord who gives in charity the nectar of pure love for Lord Krishna, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for coming today. Let's just take stock who else here. It's really, really inspiring to have a little Mangalcha. Nice to see Siddhari Prabhu. You back from your Guru Maharaj's program? Have you just been eating only raw vegetables still?
Well, when you're Guru Maharaj, there's a feast at every hour. There's no raw vegetables available anymore.
Well, that's good. Makes me feel better. I get worried about you. Okay. So just offer a little prayer myself. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Golodu Haram Goranga Gura Tamago Pyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami. So we want to continue with our discussion today about Mahaprabhu's Bhajan and the Gambhira. And mostly for our discussion, we want to be following Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're going to start in Bhajan-lila chapter 10. I'd like to do some reading today. And what we want to think about today is what is the Gambhira and who is Kashi Mishra. And we're going to continue that in our next session. Now, I understand probably a lot of you, maybe most of you, listened to our classes recently that we gave about Kashi Mishra. But we have a whole lot more to say about Kashi Mishra and his significance in Gaur-lila. So we might start that today, but I don't think we're going to actually have time for that. Probably that'll come in our next session. Today I'd like to read a little bit from the beginning about Bhagavad Gita, because as we always comment, when we look at the pastimes of the Lord, what lens should we look at them through? We should look at them through what is the message from me. And we should understand there is some message from me. If I don't look for that lens, for that understanding, then inevitably, as a conditioned soul who is prone towards sense gratification, I'm going to just take it as some kind of entertainment. Or maybe it'll seem like it's so high that I can't even really understand how it's for my entertainment. And then it's just something completely theoretical, and it becomes boring and irrelevant. So the Gambhira is a historical place still in Jagannath Puri, and it represents many deep things in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. But there's also many important lessons we get from it ourselves. When we take devotees to the Gambhira, as we've been doing for the last 30 years in Puri, we oftentimes speak to them from the Bhagavad Gita and how Krishna 4 times in the Bhagavad Gita, not just once or twice, but 4 times Krishna says that we should live alone. In the 6th chapter, text 10, when Krishna is speaking about the nature of a transcendentalist, he says, Rahasi stita ekaki. Rahasi means something confidential. Ekaki means alone. Stita means to be situated in. That a transcendentalist, he should live alone in a secluded place. Prabhupada translates it like that. Then again, in chapter 13, text 11, which speaks about the symptoms of knowledge, 2 times in the same verse, Krishna directly and indirectly speaks about this principle. He says, Viveka desha sevidvam, that we should aspire, vivekta, sevidvam, to live in a solitary place, vivekta, and that desha, that place, vivekta desha sevidvam. This is a symptom of knowledge. People who don't have a lot of knowledge, they want to run and live in the city. And that's a sad thing we see in India today. When I first came to Orissa in 1993, one of the most exciting, wonderful things is when we went to the village of Gadagiri, in some of the small villages, and we met the people there, and we saw how people were living in the same way they've been living for thousands of years in the villages of India. But very quick, I was a little disappointed to find that when you speak with them, they were just very eager to understand how can they go to Kolkata, or maybe how they can go to Delhi, how they can get a nice wristwatch. And they really didn't want to stay in the village. So things have changed a lot since 1993. And if you go to the village today, people, in 1993, they were still coming together to what they call the Bhagavat Tungi, which is a small house, a small building usually in a village, which is pretty much in every village in India. And they would keep different palm leaf manuscripts there, the Bhagavatam, the Audio Bhagavat, Vishnu Purana, and Mahabharata. And they would come together there every evening and they would do kirtan, and someone would read to them some Hari Katha. So those places now, they're just gathering dust. They're being used for storage, more or less. And now, since 1993, everyone's watching television. And they're no longer really interested to go to Kolkata. Now when you go and speak to them, they want to know, how can I go to New York? Because they want to go to New York City and they want to take the dust from New York City. They want to roll in the sacred place there. That, sadly, is their mood. So if someone has some knowledge, then Vivikta Desha Sevitvam. They don't aspire to go to the big city. Rather, they aspire to go to the mountains. They aspire to go to a cave. They aspire to go to some quiet, solitary place. At this point, we can comment that this was very much, at least apparently, against the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who repeatedly encouraged the devotees that we should go to the big cities, and not just the big cities, but downtown in the big cities. And sometimes when devotees would get some property for a temple, but it was on the outskirts of town, Srila Prabhupada wasn't very happy. He wanted to be downtown. But at the same time, those temples were meant to be a place of introspection and a place where people could get some relief from the material world. And it reminds me very much of the New York temple in Brooklyn when we were going there in the early 90s, in the early 80s, in the early 80s, and I heard in the 70s. New York City is such an intense place. There's so much crime, there's so much sense gratification everywhere. And the devotees are going out every day for Harinam and book distribution. And the only way they could stay alive was at their kirtans. And they had some of the most amazing fired up kirtans in the world. So there was this refuge there for them, which was Vivikta Desha Sevitvam. It was a place where they could live in a solitary place, free from the general people, as Krishna goes on to say in the same verse in the 13th chapter. Aratir. Aratir means no rati. Aratir jana samsati. To not be attached to people in general. And then again in the 18th chapter, Krishna says again, Vivikta Sevi, that one of the qualities needed for self-realization is that one should live in a secluded place. And Srila Prabhupada comments on this point in his purports. In the 10th verse of the 6th chapter, Srila Prabhupada says that a Krishna-conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he's always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He's always aloof from material things because he's always transcendental, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is a perfect yogi. So Prabhupada translates this point, Rahasi Stita Ekaki, that a transcendentalist should live alone. He gives a purport to it that he's always alone because he has nothing to do with persons who are not in Krishna consciousness. So this is the gambhira. And this is what we should learn from Mahaprabhu's pastimes that we want to have in our life. Again, in the 13th chapter, text 11, Prabhupada says that naturally when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he'll not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he's inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. It's easy to say, but so many of us, we need association. Someone was making an interesting comment recently. There's been a lot of, now that the COVID thing is happening and war is going on in the world, devotees are starting to contemplate more and more Srila Prabhupada's instructions about self-sufficiency and farm life and vanashram and things. And sometimes we hear devotees making complaints that all the leaders, they didn't take this up seriously. And I saw a very interesting comment from someone in this regard recently. He said that, well, if you contemplate that Srila Prabhupada basically never went to the countryside. Wherever he went was the big cities. That's where he gave classes. And he wasn't speaking to farmers in the countryside. He was speaking to city boys and girls. And it's very, very hard for them historically, for people who are living in the city, for them to go to the countryside. So it's not a surprise. But at the same time, we should want to be in a solitary place. But we have this conditioning. We like to live in the city. We like the conveniences. We like to have a community around us. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada understood the necessity of having an association, society for us like that. Again, in the 18th chapter, in text 52, Prabhupada says that such a detached person naturally prefers to live in a secluded place. So this is the gambhira, and this is the relevance of it for us. I often comment, I'm sorry for those of you who've heard me say this before, I probably said it 1,000 times, and I may say it 1,000 more times, that gambhira-lila is like a cake. And for those of you who have children like Krishna Prabhu, you know very well that children are very expert in cakes. They know all about cake. And any child will tell you that a cake has two aspects. It has a sponge or the bread kind of part, and it has a sweet icing. And both are needed. And gambhira-lila has two aspects also. The bulk of it is like the sponge or bread part of the cake, which is the preaching aspect. But there's also the sweet icing, which is lesser in quantity in the cake, less in percentage. And that sweet icing is compared to Mahaprabhu's solitary bhajan in the gambhira. So if you only have one without the other, it's not appropriate. If you try to eat a cake without the icing, it's very, very dry. But on the other hand, if you only eat the icing, how much can you eat before you get sick? It's just so incredibly sweet. It's just too much. Both things are needed. And so we take gambhira-lila and we take the proportion of both. We preach, but we should also have some private time. Some Vaishnavas, especially some of the Bhajan devotees who like to focus on bhajan, they will stress the icing part of the cake. Whereas some of the preachers, they'll stress the sponge bread part, and they'll say the icing part's not bona fide. You shouldn't go there. Whereas the Bhajanandis, they'll say, well, the cake part's very dry and you shouldn't do that. But in actuality, the real followers of Mahaprabhu accept both. But within our life, we have to have a gambhira. And so in our last session, we were speaking something about this and how in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu teaches us by going to the Jagannath Mandir 4 times a day and thereby supporting organized religion. And at the same time, he was also staying in the gambhira with Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, which is very close to the Jagannath Mandir. So from that, a lesson I suggest is that we learn that we should both support organized religion because it's necessary. Even though within organized religion there's all kinds of problems, and they wouldn't allow Haridas Thakur in the temple, they wouldn't allow Rupa and Sanatan in the temple. Gopinath Patanayak got in some politics with Maharaj Purushottam Jana, the son of Maharaj Prataparudra. They were going to have him killed. And there's always crazy things going on in big organized religion. But it's our duty to support that. because it's a desire of the Lord. It's a desire of Lord Jagannath. But at the same time, we also have to survive organized religion, which sounds a little sarcastic, but it's actually true. Because if we only associate with mass organized religion, we can become very external. Because if all we're doing is dealing with new people, just like if you ever if you meet someone who teaches children, a nursery school teacher somewhere, or someone who teaches first grade, and you try to have an intellectual discussion with them. I have a lot of friends, both my parents were teachers, and we had a lot of friends who were teachers, and those persons who spend all their time with small children, practically every time they end up being like those small children, just talking, they just end up talking to everybody else in the same way that they talk to the children. I'm really sorry, Gorni Tai Prabhu. I know, see, the problem we finally figured out with the microphone is basically I need a new computer. It's not the mic. We have a brand new mic, but it's hooked up. My ports, two of the ports don't work, and the two ports that do work, they get loose quite often. And I get complaints all the time from devotees, especially online. I'm really sorry. So the best thing is, if somebody has some problem with it, just say something right away, and I'll just jiggle the connection. We'll try to fix it up. So thank you for everybody encouraging words. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, so that's the nature of someone who teaches kindergarten or first grade. Is they speak to everyone like they're a small child. So if we only associate with brand new people, and we're always talking to them about, you're not your body, and are you a vegetarian yet? Then eventually we may start doing that with devotees. And I remember hearing a Bhagavatam class from actually someone who's a good friend of mine. He's a very senior devotee. He's a guru in our movement. And he gave a Bhagavatam class once in a big temple in ISKCON, which I happen to be. There's about 100 devotees there. Everyone basically was initiated. They were all full-time devotees. And the topic of the class for an hour and a half was why we should be vegetarian according to the Bible. And but everybody there was a vegetarian. And really, honestly, not to offend any of our Christian friends, but really nobody there was interested in the Bible. Maybe one or two devotees. But what happens is we just get into this mode of just preaching to new people, and we think that's the only bona fide way to speak. And so we just end up like the teacher who's only speaking to first grade students. We start speaking to adults like they're a first grade student. And we don't go very deep. And as a community then, what happens is we're telling everybody basically that you should just be simple and be stupid. You should dumb down our philosophy. You shouldn't read any higher books. You shouldn't ask any deep questions. If you do, you're not bona fide. We should just continually talk about how you're not your body and the four regulated principles, which are important topics. And I think we all need to hear about that, even after we've been devotees or so-called devotees for 40 or 50 years. But at the same time, that's not the only thing that Srila Prabhupada wrote about. And we also need to have some of these other things. So we need to have a gambhira. We need to have to be able to survive organized religion. If we don't have a gambhira, if we don't have a place like we're trying to create here, as we mentioned in our last session, if we don't have a little community like this, then what happens is we end up dumbing everything down. And after some time, even we're not satisfied with the Harikatha. As speakers, we're not satisfied, and what to speak of the other devotees. So it's important, Mahaprabhu is teaching us that both things should be there. I want to share with you a verse which we recently posted an article that I wrote in issue 16 of our Krishna Katamrita magazine. It's from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's Sanatana Goswami is quoting, or Gopal Bhatta Goswami is quoting, Samohana Tantra. Gopaya Devatam Ishtam Gopaya Gunamatmanaha Gopaya Chanijam Mantram Gopaya Nijamalakam. And he speaks all about how you should hide different things. And this section, Hari Bhakti Vilas, I won't go into it, but there's a number of verses about how you should hide your japa, you shouldn't speak about it. How if you have some vision or something, in a dream or something, you shouldn't speak with anyone about it, only with your guru. And here it's saying, Gopaya Deva Tam Ishtam, your Ishta Dev, you shouldn't share that with everyone. Whatever form of the Lord has arisen in your heart. Of course, we may say at this point, we may raise our hand and say, Prabhu, there is no form of the Lord that's risen in my heart. The only form of the Lord that's risen in my heart is the form of Mohini Murti, the form of the Lord's external energy, Maya. That's the only thing that's in my heart. But 2 points are there implicit in this. One is that if you've realized your Ishadev, don't speak about it. And secondly, if you haven't realized your Ishadev, but maybe you think you have, don't speak about it. Once one devotee who just a few years before he joined, was very much accustomed to taking a lot of LSD and psychedelic drugs and things. He came to my Guru Maharaj one day and he said, Guru Maharaj, I was chanting Hare Krishna and I saw Lord Nrsingadev. What should I do? And Guru Maharaj looked around both ways and he leaned forward to him and he said, don't tell anyone. So that's a very good instruction. Whether he actually saw Lord Nrsingadev or it's just some drug-induced hallucination left over from his previous life, don't speak about it. Gopayad Devatamisham, Gopayad Guru Matmanaha. Hide your guru. And this is the article that we posted. If you haven't seen it, it's on Facebook. If anybody was interested in that, I can post that in one of our WhatsApp groups. I think you'd get some benefit from it. We elaborated on this quite a bit. What does it mean to hide your guru? It doesn't mean that we deny our guru. It doesn't mean that we don't preach. It doesn't mean that someone asks you, who is your guru? You don't say anything. In the first Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami have described Guru Tattva and Sishya Tattva, the nature of the Guru and the disciple. And one of the things they mention there as part of the behavior of the disciple is the disciple should not speak the name of the Guru. And Sanatana Goswami quotes a verse. He says, but if someone asks you, who is your Guru? It's not that you say, no, Prabhu, I can't tell you. Rather, you say, Shri Srimad. You bow your head and fold your hands, and you say the name of your guru then. That's proper etiquette. So what it means here, Gopayad Gurum Atmanaha, is that Atmanaha means yourself. It means your guru, but it also means the Atma, or the soul. It means the relationship, the very deep hidden relationship that my Atma has with my Gurudev. Not just an external relationship. It means the loving friendship that I have with my Gurudev and how he treats me in a special way, different from other people in that, and not that I should advertise that. Gopayajcha Nijam Mantram, the Nija mantra, the mantra that you've gotten from your Gurudev. Don't speak that to everyone. We should rather hide it. Gopayan Nijamalikam. Nijamalika means your mala, your japa mala. You shouldn't take that out of the bag. And in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's several verses. I think it's in the 5th Vilas when it speaks about japa, as I recall, where it says that one should keep one's beads in a bag because there are different subtle living entities like yakshas and ghosts and different persons who may steal the benefit of your japa. So that's one external meaning of Gopaya Nijamalikam. Another meaning, though, is that your personal bhajan, Nijamalikam, how many malas you're chanting, don't speak about that with everyone. We should keep that private. So these are some of the purposes that I see in this gambhira-lila. He's just looking for something here. Sorry. Oh, Lila Purushottam Prabhu made a comment. Okay, I saw someone made a comment. I was just trying to think. Hey, Lila Purushottam, you got to remind me. I have a lot to do after this katha today, but it won't be hard for me if somebody reminds me. So now I'd like to turn to Madhya-lila chapter 10 and speak something about it. But we want to read from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're also going to be looking through a book called Gambhira-lila by Rasik Mohan Vidyabhushan, who was one of the associates of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he speaks about Mahaprabhu and the Gambhira. And he's done a very beautiful job of compiling everything in one place and speaking about the deep purport of it. And he speaks about how the Ganga, the Bhagirati, how the Bhagirati delivers everyone, all the fallen souls, and that Bhagirati is passing through Prayag Dham. And there in Prayag Dham, it's the Bhagirati, the Ganga, is joined by the Saraswati and the Jamuna, and therefore it's known as the Triveni Sangam. These three rivers come together, or the Sagara Sangam. That's when they end up going into the ocean, and on the way they convert so many places into different sacred places of pilgrimage, and that Sagara Sangam, where the Ganga enters into the ocean, that's a very sacred place of pilgrimage. And so many of the Puranas and Shastras describe the benefits of going to those places, touching those places. In the, I think it was in the Brihanaradiya Purana, there's a story about a frog who was a person in his previous life who inadvertently helped someone to go to the Ganga. And but he was also a Gunda, he was killing many people. And so because of his sinful reactions, he took birth as a frog. But because he helped somebody to go to the Ganga, as a frog, he had some desire, he could remember his previous birth, and he wanted to go to the Ganga. Now, to go to the Ganga is not an easy thing. If you're living in South Africa, if you're living in America or something, it's quite a long thing. But it's not so hard. You save up some money, you buy a ticket, you go there. But if you're a frog, even if you're living in some nearby place, just a few miles away from the Ganga, for a frog to go those few miles to the Ganga is quite an intense thing. So that frog was hopping his way, trying to go to the Ganga, and he met with a very vicious snake. And the snake said, "I'm going to eat you." The frog said, "Well, please, sir, let me go to the Ganga and take bath, and then you can eat me after that." And the snake said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm hungry." And the snake ate him. So according to the Padma Purana, Brihanaradiya Purana, that frog got the benefit of going to the Ganga because he was striving to go to the Ganga. So there's so many different descriptions given in literatures about the benefits of going to the Ganga, about the benefits of the sacred places and that. But there's another type of pilgrimage, which we've been speaking about some in our sessions on Prema Bhakti Chandrika of Nautam Das Thakur, where he discourages devotees. He says that what is it, Tirtha Yatra, Kebala Parishama, it's just a big over endeavor to try to go on Tirtha Yatra. And it's not that devotees are against the tirthas. We love the tirthas, and sometimes devotees go to them. But there's a greater pilgrimage which is hidden in the secret world of prema. And there's very, very few pilgrims who ever try to attain that place. And just as you have the Triveni, where these three rivers come together, there's two separate streams of love which rise in two different places. And then they surrender, these two streams of love, they enter into the ocean of divine love together. And that place where those two streams of love enter the ocean, that's a very significant place of pilgrimage for the Premika Bhaktas. And in the entire universe, you don't find the waves of divine love seen anywhere except they're up there. So those two rivers which are entering, those are the embankment of separation and the embankment of union. And that ocean is in Jagannath Puri. And so when we visit Puri, we see the ocean, which Rupa Goswami in Lalita Madhav, he says that the sound of the ocean in Puri is the sound of the gopis crying in separation from Krishna. So many people, they go there and they take baths and they get some religious benefit. But there on the bank of the ocean in Puri, there's another confluence. That ocean in Puri is where all the sacred rivers enter into. Sometimes it's known as Tirtharaj. Sometimes Puri itself is called Tirtharaj, the king of Tirthas, because all the sacred rivers enter into the ocean. It's called Tirtharaj. And people take bath there for that. But there's another confluence on the bank of that ocean, which is an unparalleled place. And that place is full of love. And that's the supreme place of pilgrimage for the Premika Bhaktas. And that place, it's a very, very blissful place, but it's a very silent place. It's a very hidden place to the mundane eyes. But that place is millions and millions of times deeper and wider than the unlimited and endless material ocean. Because that ocean, this place, is the ocean of Radha Prem that Mahaprabhu was swimming in the Gambhira, in the house of Kashi Mishra. And in that ocean, we have two fish in the form of Sri Damodar Goswami and Roy Ramananda, who were swimming in that ocean of love. And this pastimes of Mahaprabhu and the Gambhira, these are very, very special, very, very hidden pastimes. They're very miraculous and astonishing, because the Supreme Lord, he's the object of love. And the different modes of bhakti, they're called rasa. And the devotees, they're the abode of that rasa. But now the same Supreme Personality of Godhead is the object of love. Now he's coming and he's taking on the mood of the abode of love. And he's tasting that rasa. So just as the waves of the ocean are innumerable, so also the waves of rasa in the Gambhira are also innumerable. And there's no worldly language which can describe them. So I want to just say a little bit now in this session about Kashi Mishra, and a little something, first of all, about the history, something about the Gambhira. The Gambhira is, for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it's one of the most important places for them in Jagannath Puri Dham. In the Veda Kirtan pastimes chapter, I think it's 11 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is on the roof of the palace of Maharaj Prataparudra, and he's pointing out all the different associates of Mahaprabhu who are coming to Puri. And Maharaj Prataparudra is astonished. He'd seen so much Hare Krishna Kirtan before, but he'd seen people who were doing Hare Krishna Kirtan as a religion for the purpose of getting liberation or the purpose of purifying himself. But he'd never seen this Premanam Sankirtan performed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu and Gadadhar Pandit and all of Mahaprabhu's amazing associates. And as he's watching them, he became very astonished. He said, what are they doing? Because everybody, when you come to Puri, the first thing is you shave your head, then you go take bath in the ocean, then you go to Panchatirtha, 5 different tirthas, 5 different sacred places to take bath in Sweta Ganga and Indradumna Sarovar, Markandeya Sarovar, the different sacred places you take bath, and then you go have darshan of Jagannath, and you fast. But these devotees, they're not shaving their head, they're not taking bath, they're not going to Lord Jagannath, they're all going to the Gambhira. That's the first place they go. And how is this? And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained to him that you can't stop the heart. The heart will go where it naturally wants to go. So in Jagannath Puri, it's very confusing for devotees to understand Puri. If you read the Purushottama Mahatmya section of the Vaishnava Khanda of the Skanda Purana, or the section of the Puri Mahatmya of the Padma Purana, or of the different Puranas that speak about Jagannath Puri, you will find so many instructions given there about the importance of taking baths in this place and the importance of having darshan in Jagannath, and you do this ritual and you do that ritual. But the followers of Mahaprabhu don't do that. And as we sometimes comment, Srila Prabhupada in one lecture in 1972, he mentioned that there are two understandings. There's the Smarta Vichar and the Goswami Vichar. And this is the difference that we see in Puri. We find both. And there's a lot of Smarta Vichar. And people, they're going to the Jagannath Mandir because they want to be religious. If you go on certain days of the year to the beach, you'll find thousands and thousands of people going there like 4 o'clock in the morning on Makara Sankranti. If you go there on the day of Makara Sankranti, all the Hindus go there, like maybe 1 million people, at least tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people are going to take a bath at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And they all make little boats out of out of bamboo and some different things, and they put it's called Bala Yatra also. And it's a tradition that this is considered to be a very auspicious thing, and if you do that, you're not going to take birth again. And these are karmis who are going to do that. And there's a strong tradition like that in Jagannath Puri. And there's a danger I see amongst devotees who don't know all these things, and especially to those of us from the West, who are very new to Krishna consciousness and the Vedic culture. When we hear about, and Prabhupada says we should chant Hare Krishna, and we just chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and we chant Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, and that's about as sophisticated as we are. But then after some time we hear, and we see somebody doing different mudras and chanting different mantras and things, and we see in some Puranas some description about this and that. And then we naturally become confused because we want to adopt the culture. And this culture is so beautiful. But we should understand there's two cultures that we'll find in Jagannath Puri. And one is the Goswami Vichar culture, the culture of the followers of Mahaprabhu, and the other is the Smarta Vichar culture. And both we respect. Maharaj Prataparudra, up to that time, he belonged to the Smarta Vichar culture. He understood all the rules and regulations and how to worship Lord Jagannath and how to behave as a proper Hindu. But he didn't understand this Premanam Sankirtan that Mahaprabhu and his associates were doing. So it's a very, very deep thing in Jagannath Puri. There's two opposites in one container. Whereas my Guru Maharaj described Lord Jagannath, he said that Jagannath is Madhurja Rasa Ganayati Murti. He's a condensed form of Madhurja Ras, but he's also Aishvarja Madhurja Yugala Milan. He's the combined form of both opulence and sweetness. So also is Jagannath Puri Dham. And that opulence covers over the sweetness. So if you go to Jagannath Puri, there's a huge Jagannath Mandir, which everyone goes to. But the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are more eager to go to the house of Kashi Mishra. And that Kashi Mishra Bhavan, that house of Kashi Mishra, it's not so far away from the Jagannath Mandir, but it's a different place. I'd like to share with you a few pictures from that, if I can. Let's see. There we go. This is one of the old entrances to the Gambhira. Nowadays, this entrance is closed up. And if you were at this place, you would go past it and go around and come into the back door. But this is the entrance to the Gambhira. And if you go inside of the Gambhira, then you'll come to the room where Mahaprabhu was doing his bhajan. Let's see, I'm showing, I have a nice picture that this had too. They don't allow any photographs inside. So this is an old picture. Things have also changed here since then, but you can see this is taken looking straight at the Gambhira. They have they have Gaunitai there, and they do their 24-hour kirtan right near. Then they have deities of Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy. And then if you were to go and look inside that little window, you would find this a few years ago. Now they have a deity with this You see the picture of Mahaprabhu in the back of that altar. Now they have a deity there. So this is inside the gambhira. And inside that, let's see here, actually, go back to that again. Inside this metal box on the left, you can't see very well, but on the left side of the box there's a komandalu, and on the right side of the box there's some shoes. They don't take those out of that cage at all, but in our research some years ago, I came across a photograph in a book that was published in the 1930s with a wonderful picture of those items without the sandalwood paste, or with very little sandalwood paste. These are the shoes there. These shoes were made by Vishnu Priya in Navadvip and sent by her to Mahaprabhu. Because when Mahaprabhu left Navadvip, he gave his shoes to Vishnu Priya. So Vishnu Priya later made some shoes for Mahaprabhu. Those original shoes that are 500 years old are still there today in the gambhira. This kamandalu, this water pot, was made by the hands of Jagadananda Pandit, Mahaprabhu's associate. Mahaprabhu sent him to Vrindavan. He told him, don't stay in Vrindavan for very long, you should return. So when he returned, he brought this pot. And he made this pot with his own hands, with the dirt, the clay of the soil of Vrindavan. And this is a sannyasi's kamandala. And then there's this small box here, and it had a quilt originally. Now there's very little of the cloth left, which was made by Sachi Mata for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and sent to him. So these are some of the treasures which are kept inside of the gambhira. And let's see, I'd like to read a little bit from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, mostly just the translations, about how Mahaprabhu originally went to the gambhira. I don't know if we're going to have time to read all of this. Is about maybe 30 verses, but you can see. Radhesham Prabhu, would you like to start reading something, please? Text 3.
All right. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed for South India, King Prataparuda called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to his palace.
Well, just by the way, this is Madhya-lila chapter 10. Go on.
When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met the king offered him a seat with all respects and inquired about news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The king said to the Bhattacharya, I have heard that a great personality has come from Bengal and is staying at your home. I have also heard that he is very, very merciful. I have also heard that this great personality has shown you great favor. At any rate, this is what I hear from many different people. Now, being merciful upon me, you should do me the favor of arranging an interview. The Bhattacharya replied, all that you have heard is true, but as far as an interview is concerned, it is very difficult to arrange. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the renounced order and is very much detached from worldly affairs. He stays in solitary places, and even in dreams, he does not grant interviews to a king. Still, I would have tried to arrange your interview, but he has recently left to tour South India. The king asked, why? Has he left Jagannath Puri?
Hemanti, would you like to continue with text 11?
Great saints go to holy places of pilgrimage in order to purify them. For that reason, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is visiting many tirthas and delivering many conditioned souls. Saints of your caliber are themselves places of pilgrimage. Because of their purity, they are constant companions of the Lord, and therefore they can purify even the places of pilgrimage.
That was a quote
A Vaishnava travels to places.
Okay, go ahead.
A Vaishnava travels to places of pilgrimage to purify them and reclaim fallen conditioned souls. This is one of the duties of a Vaishnava. Actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a living entity, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Consequently, he is a fully independent controller, yet in his position as a devotee, he carries out the activities of a devotee. Upon hearing this, the king replied, "Why did you allow him to leave? Why didn't you fall at his lotus feet and keep him here?" Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, "Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself and is completely
completely independent.
independent. Being Lord Krishna himself, he is not dependent on anyone."
Siddha Hari Prabhu, would you like to start reading from text 16?
Yes, Prabhu. Still, I endeavored very hard to keep him here. But because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and completely independent, I was not successful. The king said, "Bhattacharya, you are the most learned and experienced person I know. Therefore, when you address Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Lord Krishna, I accept this as the truth." Quote, "When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns, I wish to see him just once in order to make my eyes perfect." Unquote. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, "His Holiness Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will return very soon. I wish to have a nice place ready for him, a place solitary and peaceful." Quote, "Lord Chaitanya's residence should be very secluded and also near the temple of Jagannath. Please consider this proposal and give me a nice place for him."
So, just a little point here. Let me stop that now and show something a little different now. This is text 19, which we just read, where Sarvabhauma is telling him that Mahaprabhu was going to return Upakali very soon, but I want to give him some place which he describes as Rahititanya Ekashtan Chahi Virhale. It's a secluded place. It's a very quiet, solitary place, a peaceful place. And this was the service that the devotees wanted to offer to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we'll go back to our other document. In Krishna Balaram Prabhu, would you like to continue reading from text 21?
The king replied, "Kashi Mishra's house is exactly what you require. It is near the temple and is a very secluded, calm, and quiet." After saying this, the king became very anxious for the Lord to return. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then went to Kashi Mishra to convey the king's desire. When Kashi Mishra heard the proposal, he said, "I'm very fortunate that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord of all Prabhus, will stay at my home." Thus all the residents of Jagannath Puri, which is also known as Purushottam, became anxious to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. When all the residents of Jagannath Puri became extremely anxious to meet the Lord again, he returned from South India.
I like this description very much. This is from text 25 of this chapter. And Kaviraj Goswami, basically what he's saying here is that because the devotees, they have this desire to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, therefore he appeared. And let's see, we can put this verse on the board. He says, Sarva Lokera Utkanta. Utkanta means some intense desire. Kanta means the neck. And when Utkanta means when your heart's coming up into your throat and you feel so much anxiety, so much intense desire. There'll be Atyanta Bhadila, and it's increasing. At that time, Mahaprabhu returned, understanding the desire of the devotees. So this is a nice instruction for all of us for our bhajan also. When we have a very intense desire to see the Lord, then the Lord will manifest. So we can go ahead with text number 26. And maybe Lila Purushottam, would you like to start reading now?
Yes. Hearing of the Lord's return, everyone became very happy, and they all went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and spoke to him as follows. Please arrange our meeting with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is only by your mercy that we can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. The Bhattacharya replied to the people, Tomorrow the Lord will be at the house of Kashi Mishra. I shall arrange for you all to meet him. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived and went with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with great enthusiasm to see the temple of Lord Jagannath.
So let me just interject a little comment here. So Mahaprabhu arrived, and what's important to him, it's not where he's going to stay. That's not the first thing I want to do is go see where I'm going to stay and fix it in my room. But the first thing he wants to do is go see Lord Jagannath. And then he'll go to his place where he's going to stay and have prasadam. Go ahead.
All the servants of Lord Jagannath delivered remnants of the Lord's food to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In return, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all. After seeing Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the temple. The Bhattacharya then took him to the house of Kashi Mishra.
Chaitanya Prabhu, would you like to start reading from text 32?
Sure. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at his house, Kashi Mishra immediately fell down at his lotus feet and surrendered himself and all his possessions.
This is Grihastha Dharma. It's not just that I have a guest coming and staying in my house, but this is his mood toward Mahaprabhu, that he fell down at his lotus feet, he surrendered everything that I have, myself and everything I have, it belongs to you. And then what did Mahaprabhu do to reciprocate with that? The next verse describes.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then showed Kashi Mishra his four-armed form. Then accepting him for his service, the Lord embraced him.
Yeah. So I was just reading some commentary in Bengali about this, and they were mentioning how, because Kashi Mishra was a little close to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Kashi Mishra is described in other places that he was very intimate in the service of Lord Jagannath. And so also Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very much involved in that too. So they were, naturally speaking, they were senior persons. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya previously had darshan of Mahaprabhu with a six-armed form. Mahaprabhu showed him his Sadbhuj form. And Kashi Mishra had this desire in his heart, I would like to see that. But he really wants to see something a little sweeter than that. You know? And so then Mahaprabhu showed him his four-armed form, something we don't often hear about in his pastime, and accepted him for his service. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Atmasat Koritari Alingana Kwaila. He embraced him. He gave him his full mercy. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
34. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next sat down at the place prepared for him, and all the devotees, headed by Lord Nityananda Prabhu, surrounded him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see his residential quarters, in which all his necessities were taken care of. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, "This place is just befitting you. Please accept it. It is the hope of Kashi Mishra that you do."
So why is Mahaprabhu very happy just to go stay in a hotel room? His happiness in staying and seeing the residential quarters are not like our happiness if you go stay in Trump Towers in New York City or something in a fancy room. But his happiness is that he saw this is very, very good for my bhajan. This is a place where it's naturally conducive for me to cultivate the inner desires of my heart, which are so he can taste Radha Bhav. And so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also is encouraging him that you should please accept this. This is the hope of Kashi Mishra that you do. So this is the house of Kashi Mishra. That place is still there today. And if you go there, you'll see the gambhiras. We showed a few pictures, but you'll also see the deities of Sri Sri Radhakant. Let's see here. I just want to do something real quick. And I just want to say a little something more about some things we've heard about the history of the gambhira and some of the special qualities of it. The gambhira is about, if there was no traffic and no people walking, maybe it would be like a 5 or 10 minute walk from the gambhira. Nowadays, maybe it'll take you 10 from the Jagannath Mandir. It's on the southeastern corner of the Jagannath Mandir and very, very close to it. So in the gambhira, we find the deities of Radhakant. And we haven't been able to find, historians have said that there's no authentic records we found of the date when that those deities, it's called Kashi Mishra Bhajan or the Radhakant Mutt, because it's a temple of Radhakant. We don't know when those deities were exactly installed, but there's a story they tell that Maharaj Prataparudra, he went south to the city of Kashi to do some battle, and he was defeated there, and he was despondent and depressed, and he surrendered himself to Krishna. And in that mood, he fell asleep, and then he had a dream, and he saw Krishna dressed as a chariot driver of Arjuna, who appeared before him, and he told him, "Don't worry, you bring your army again, you're going to be victorious." Very much like there's a story about his father, Maharaj Purushottam Dev, and how he also fought with Kanchi and how he defeated them. But in this story that they tell there at the Gambhira, Krishna told Maharaj Prataparudra that here in Kanchi, there's a very special deity of mine who has many gems on him, and he's hidden under the ground, and the name of my deity is Radhakant. And you should go and dig up that deity and take him with you carefully, return him to your country, and you install him and you serve him there. And saying that, then Krishna disappeared from the dream. Now, I've heard two different stories about this, two different versions. One, they say that it was Maharaj Purushottam Dev, who was the father of Maharaj Prataparudra, who captured this deity. Others say it was Maharaj Prataparudra. Some say that when Maharaj Purushottam Dev, Purushottam Jana is the son of Maharaj Prataparudra. Purushottam Dev is his father. That when Purushottam Dev, or perhaps Maharaj Prataparudra, returned, he gave those deities to Kashi Mishra. And anyway, after having that dream, he woke up and he ran to that particular place and he started digging, and he found the deity there of Radhakant. And he brought that deity back and gave him to Kashi Mishra. So that's the story about Radhakant. And after some years, they installed a wooden deity, originally of Srimati Radharani, to lessen the pain of separation that Krishna had, and also to increase the happiness of the eyes of the devotees. And then along with her, a deity, Lalita, appeared. And then about 100 years or so ago, those deities were changed, and they installed some Astadhatu deities made out of 8 different metals. And here's a very rare picture of the deity of Radhakant, the Kashi Mishra's house, and the deity of Radharani Lalita. And you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the right and Lord Nityananda, small deity, on the left, and some of their associates in different sites. So these are the original deities of Radhakant. We're going to go ahead and stop. This is something about the gambhira and the special qualities of it. I want to continue where we left off in Bhajan-lila chapter 10 here in our next discussion. And we'll hear something more about what the mood of the gambhira was like. We don't always hear about that, what went on there. One of the things we'll hear about is how when Mahaprabhu first went there, there was a huge crowd of devotees who went there and to meet with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we want to hear what was going on there in the gambhira. What is the mood of Mahaprabhu? What is the special quality of this place? And we're going to hear something more about Kashi Mishra. I've been finding some different things more about Kashi Mishra than I spoke, for those of you, especially Krishna Kun, if you're still here, who've been listening to our kathas about Kubja and Kashi Mishra. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahakavya of Murari Gupta and some other things. We'll read something more about that and discuss more in our next session. So I want to go ahead and stop here. And anybody wants this Haija Guru article, you remind me again later on. But I'd like to just go ahead and ask maybe Hemanti, would you like to share something today? Any special thoughts or anything you appreciated?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, my pranams. Just lovely to be here with everyone in the Sangha today. Just few thoughts. When you spoke about how, as a teacher spending time with little children and they ended up speaking, like them. I also thought like when it comes to like ISKCON and institutional religion, also we end up picking up phrases and words that are unique to ISKCON, and even when we're talking to outsiders, it comes out. So that was just something. And then just had a question when we talk of all these devotees wanting to meet Lord Chaitanya and be with him in the Gambhira. What was the qualification that enabled them to meet the Lord and have this association like that?
That's a very interesting question, because it's an irrelevant, important question too. I can kind of hear inherent in your question is hope. Well, how can what will be my qualification? Will I have in right in that place also? And that's quite an interesting discussion, quite an interesting topic. We hear about. We'll speak more about that in our next session. Maybe that's the easiest way to say it. But how Kashi Mishra was Kubja in his previous life. And it's a very, very encouraging thing in terms of Kashi Mishra, how he got the mercy of the Lord in spite of his big disqualification of being Kubja in his previous life, who basically was lusty and had a not so pure motivation to approach the Lord. So I don't know where it's described about all the different personalities. We hear that Uddhava became Paramananda Puri, and that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed him to come there. We know different devotees were associates of Mahaprabhu and Krishna-lila. Some of them we don't exactly hear about that, but we hear about the great bhakti sukriti they got, the great mercy they've gotten from different devotees, by which perhaps they were able to go to the Gambhira, or perhaps they were eternal associates, but we're supposed to think of them as someone who just got a lot of mercy to give some hope to us. So how do we approach that Gambhira? We want to approach that Gambhira with our Gurudev. And we'll speak more about that as we go along. That's what I call the Gambhira Bhajan Pranali, the system of bhajan given in the Gambhira. And we see in the Gambhira, it's a very important question. You're asking, how do the devotees enter into there? And the way they entered into there was by the mercy of their Guru. And we hear how Govinda, he was a disciple of Ishvara Puri, Mahaprabhu's godbrother. And he pleased Ishvara Puri. So Ishvara Puri told him that you go and you serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So because he served his Guru and pleased him, he had access to the Gambhira. We hear how Raghunath Das Goswami had access to the Gambhira and how he was staying there quite often because he was Swarupera Raghu. He was the Raghunath of Swarup Damodar Goswami. He was serving Swarup Damodar Goswami. By the mercy of Swarup Damodar, he was able to enter into that place. And Rupa Goswami and other devotees, because they were serving, they were able to enter into that place. But entering into that place is not just a physical thing. And this is something we're trying to speak about today, about the nature of pilgrimage. Many people go to Puri and they want to take bath in the ocean to get some piety. But a place which is much, much deeper than the ocean, which is much, much more sacred than that place where all the sacred rivers enter into it, is the Gambhira. because the gambhira is a place where we find the rivers of union and separation entering in. And it's the very word gambhira means deep. It's a place of pilgrimage for the premi bhaktas. And so in that place, entering into it is not just like going on a tourist thing or just, we went on pilgrimage today and I went to 10 different temples and here's a list of all of them and I took photographs and I did this and this. But the entry is not just a physical entry. But the devotees, they were granted entry by dint of their bhajan. And that's the point that we want to make. That's the point that we want to stress in this series of talks. What is this bhajan pranali, which is given in the gambhira? And it's something which I want to suggest, we'll find, is something which is open for all of us, if we want to take it. But if we go to Jagannath Puri and we just head to the ocean to take bath and to do some body surfing and get a suntan and have a good time, then maybe we'll miss out on what's going on in the gambhira. We should go there and understand that the most important place is not the ocean. The most important place, which is much deeper than the ocean, is the gambhira. But we can't enter into that unless we enter into it with some kata, unless we enter by the mercy of Sadhu Guru Vaishnava. And that's basically, in a nutshell, how all those devotees entered into it. Is that helpful, Hamanti? I don't know.
It's given me something to think about. Thank you.
Good. And I hope all the devotees, we can all go to the gambhira physically, but sit down and do some bhajan and try to enter into it with our heart someday together. Is that okay, Lila Purushottam? Okay.
When will the day be mine?
Interesting. Gorni Thai Prabhu, would you like to share something? It's getting late at night there for Gorni Thai Prabhu. Now it's, let's see, it's 11 o'clock at night, I think, almost, right?
Yes. It's
That's
time.
That's the time Mahaprabhu was doing his gambhira-lila.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, it's very, very interesting in the times going on, how the mind is affected from different things to do, and it's not easy to keep awake when you already gave your energy to nonsense things or maybe useful things also. So yes, I was really, last time I missed the program because I was too tired. So I was thinking and tried to prepare. And I was listening a nice class about the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. And when you told, and when Mataji asked for what is the qualification of entering the gambhira, that also I was just wondering who is Kashi Mishra, and I found that yes, he got what Krishna promised her, but at that time Kubja wanted him Krishna to stay with her, but at that time it was not possible, but no, she got it. So back to the 8th canto, that's a very interesting last prayer of Prahlad Maharaj about all the situations what happened, and then he explained that how the Lord is naturally Kalpataru. And because of the discussion went on then before the 7th canto, that how it looks like Lord is partial, and then the 7th canto explained that no, he's not partial, and the 8th canto started to explain the different type of surrendering persons. And when Bali Maharaj surrendered, he is the example of fully surrendered person. And what got Bali Maharaj, he got a kind of very peaceful place in Sutala with the Lord. If you can imagine that the Bali Maharaj was the emperor of all the world and the king of the demons and fighting and so many things. And then when he surrendered, seemingly it's like pushing down, but it's a very, very peaceful place for him. Sutala means a really, really attractive, beautiful place when he is personally with his Lord, Upendra Vamanadev, personally serving him, personally having deep, association. That's the same as for Lord Chaitanya the Gambhira, because of he fully surrendered. And you mentioned that how we can get that qualification, and Bali Maharaj got the qualification from his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj. And we have a grandfather or father, Srila Prabhupada. Just we have to learn how to surrender to him. And as Bali Maharaj was seeing Prahlad Maharaj at that moment, we can see Prabhupada in our surrendered situation. And then it's sure we get this Gambhira. But I'm also feeling that not before we fully surrendered. So Gambhira for the persons who really fully surrendered. And I'm very, really grateful for you to speak about. Because if you don't speak about, we don't know. We don't know what the values, what the precious jewels waiting for us when we surrender. We are afraid of surrendering because we're losing so many enjoyment, so-called enjoyment. But your classes, this class is inspiring to them. Okay, give up your nonsense, Gaurnitai. Surrender to your Guru, surrender to Prabhupada, surrender to devotees, because you get this really deep place of Gambhira, and then you get successful life. So thank you very much.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. What a very profound and thoughtful thing. You know, when you were telling me this, it reminded me of a drama that I saw once. It was somebody's Vyas Puja program, and the devotees were doing a drama about Srila Prabhupada in America. And there was one devotee who was playing Srila Prabhupada, and it was in a place called New Brajadam. And I was just thinking about that devotee who was playing Srila Prabhupada.
Don't say
Those of you might guess who that was.
You are cruel.
But it just reminded me, going type of movie.
Thank you very much. I'm trying.
We remember Srila Prabhupada. And it's a very beautiful thing how Bali Maharaj, he was taking shelter of his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj. And sometimes devotees may, to be really frank, we may even have a doubt. Yes, we've heard so much about Prabhupada, but maybe they're just saying it because it's kind of an institutional thing. But really the most important person is my father, my guru. And there's truth in that. I didn't get to meet Srila Prabhupada. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada told a story once, or there's a story I heard from one of Prabhupada's servants, I can't remember who it was, maybe somebody who remembers, where he was told to make some halava for Srila Prabhupada. So he thought he was going to make some really special halava, and he took some wheat germ. I don't know what you call it in Hungarian. Krishna Kun could jump in maybe and say, but it's something you generally don't make. And he made a really healthy thing, and he cooked really slow and made a really nice halava for Prabhupada. And he brought it and he cooked with so much feeling. And he said, he offered it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at it and he said, "What is this? What kind of nonsense? I'm not going to eat." And Prabhupada chastised him. And the devotee, his whole world just crashed. And he was just brokenhearted, and he left, and he went to the temple room in Los Angeles, and he sat down in front of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's picture, and he started praying, "My dear Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, you're my spiritual grandfather." Because you remember Prabhupada said that the grandfather is even more merciful than the father. Like in this. And he was praying like that, and please, I just wanted to please my guru, and I made this great mistake. And all of a sudden, somebody came to see him and said, "Prabhupada's calling for you." And he went back, and then Prabhupada said, "Actually, this is very nice halava." And he saw some connection between his prayer to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada. So it's a very real thing. Srila Prabhupada is very, very real. And I like to think myself that really what I wanted to do is I wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada. But I met Srila Prabhupada through my Guru Maharaj. And I think that's really the way we should have Guru. That person that we really feel Srila Prabhupada's presence in, that's our Guru. That's the Srila Prabhupada for us. So it was a really nice drama. There in New Brajadam. Maybe there's a video of it or something devotees should watch. Thank you, Guru.
May I say something about this, Prabhupada?
Yeah.
Just a short reflection. So, as you told that, we are looking for Prabhupada like a historical person, a great devotee, established more than 108 temples. But it is really the main quality of Prabhupada. So today again, it's not my thought, but Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj told that if you see the 8th canto, that is the explanation of surrendering process. And the last quality of surrendering is humbleness. And Prabhupada, in your example, in this example, shows the greatest quality, the humbleness. He could say, no, it's nonsense. But then humble, he accepted. That's the greatest quality. And that shows that he was fully surrendered, beautiful, wonderful Vaishnava. Not the miracles, not the big things. This humbleness, that's very difficult to attain.
And Sanatana Goswami says that humility comes from prema. And prema comes from humility. The two are in cause and effect. And he says that the best example of humility is the Braj Gopis. So that's beautiful. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Radhisham Prabhu, would you like to share something?
Yes, this has been really a sweet pastime. And Gauranitai Prabhu was just amazing with that quick conversation there. I really enjoyed that. It was really nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Maybe my question could be for you, Prabhu. You mentioned last week 24/6/12, and this is where we are now on the 12 with Gambhira. Is this something that we should be, as devotees, wannabe devotees, trying to imitate to find that Gambhira?
Yeah, implicit in your question is a comment. Should we be imitating? Because we all know that imitation is not good.
Yes.
But then how do we approach all this? So we can't imitate. Imitation is wrong. But what we want to do, we want to go to the Gambhira with our Gurudev holding our hand. We go to the Gambhira through our Gurudev, and the Gambhira Bhajan Pranali, we'll repeat this over and over again, probably because it takes a lot of time, I think, to digest. Tate Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Sevan. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that we do our bhajan, our Krishna bhajan, that's our Guru Seva. Our Guru Seva is our Krishna bhajan. So that's the Gambhira Bhajan Pranali. Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda are doing bhajan, but it's not for their benefit. They're doing bhajan, they're reading Bhagavatam and doing bhajans and things, but it's not so that they become advanced. It's not so they become free from lusty desires. Like the rest of us, we're doing bhajan for reasons like that, or to get a husband or wife, or get money or whatever. Their bhajan is not for any of those reasons. Their bhajan is for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu. So that's also a very high thing and a very distant thing. How can we enter into that? We enter that when we do bhajan, Tati Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Sevan, when we do bhajan for the pleasure of our Gurudev. And our Gurudev, he's doing bhajan for the pleasure of his Guru. His Guru is doing bhajan for the pleasure of his Guru, is doing bhajan for the pleasure of his Guru, is doing bhajan for the pleasure of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Raghunath. And for Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, who are doing bhajan for the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is the kirtan of our sampradaya. that we're being allowed some entry into. But how do we, next question will come, what does it mean to hold my Gurudev's hand? What does it mean to go to the Gambhira? It's a very simple thing. It just means that we take this mantra that we've been given by Srila Prabhupada and by his disciples, this Hare Krishna mantra, which has come in disciplic succession. It means we take the Srimad Bhagavatam, and just very simply, we just read these things and we chant this, and this is our life and soul. But we do it understanding that this is my connection to my Gurudev, understanding this is what's going to please my Gurudev. My Gurudev's not pleased as if I give him $1 million, or my Gurudev's not pleased that, oh Gurudev, Maharaj, I want to surrender to you, and you'll be lucky if you have a disciple like me, because I come from a very aristocratic Sarasvat Brahmin family, and you'll be very fortunate if you get a disciple like me. Gurudev's not looking for big disciples or lots of money. He's looking for people who sincerely want to do this kirtan. Because the gopis are doing kirtan for the pleasure of Radharani, who's in separation from Krishna. Those same gopis are coming as the associates of Mahaprabhu, and they're doing kirtan for him. And Krishna's trying to repay his debt to the gopis. He repays that debt by doing their kirtan, pratiyatu sadhana, by becoming a sadhu. And so he's looking for people to engage in that kirtan. And he wants to engage the whole universe in that kirtan. But we have to follow in that kirtan, we have to follow our Gurujanas, we have to follow those gopis. And if we follow them strictly and just chant Hare Krishna, read the Bhagavatam, do the things which are given to us, then we can enter into the Gambhira in that way. Mm-hmm. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you very much. Very nice.
And let's see, Natalia, would you like to share something? You're there in Estonia still right now?
Yes, I'm in Estonia. Thank you very much. It was very, very deep and many things. I don't know, I should listen again, maybe, but what I took for me is that, one more once again, it is like you repeated again that without going deep inside, without our own Bhajan personal, we cannot preach. And this again, it was good to hear again. And also about Srila Prabhupada, thank you, Gaurnitai Prabhu. It is really so that, and also your preaching that Srila Prabhupada as grandfather is more is closer to us sometimes, and it is really that, like I know that when there were a couple of times in my life then when I just prayed to Srila Prabhupada straight, and there were some arrangements about that. And also, when you were speaking about the sound of the ocean is like sound of gopis crying, I remembered this picture of this book, Embankment of Separation, where Mahaprabhu is going into the ocean. And I don't know, it connected also somehow that his pain inside is he's getting some relief also maybe from this like ocean is very big and strong and can take this pain, and also because yes. Maybe reminds him of cry of gopis. This is like same like it is the mood of Mahaprabhu inside is the same as the mood of ocean at this moment. Okay, these were my thoughts. Sorry,
Yeah, we should always remember when we come, it's not just that it's some external thing. Our problem is in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, where Bahir Mukjan is external. And we just see the institution, we just see the bad things about it or the good things about it. And some people become caught up in the rituals of it, and some people become caught up in trying to exorcise the demons from it. But both of them don't really see the real essence of it, which is a bhajan pranali and serving what Srila Prabhupada wanted to do, trying to please Srila Prabhupada. So we should always keep that in mind very, very much. And I'm really happy that you remember that, Natalia. Thank you. How about Brajabanita? Would you like to share something with us? It's nice to see you here, Brajabanita.
Nice to see you too. I actually just might add my gratitude, because I don't have some particular ideas or thoughts about what I had been hearing. But, I love your Katha. I just was flowing with the torrent of your sweet words. And I am absolutely not sorry about the fact that I was enjoying of that. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brajabanita. How are your cats? Okay?
Yes, they're fine. Well, I lost one. One left us months ago, so I'm now with 4. But
I always remember in Prabhupada Lilamrita when Prabhupada went to stay with Mukunda and Janaki, and they were just like hippies and they didn't know what to do, and Prabhupada's there, and Prabhupada came in and they had some cartoons on the television or something. The TV been on all night long and they were sleeping. It's real morbid ignorance. And they turned the TV off, and then all of a sudden they had a cat. And the cat came and started curling up around Prabhupada's feet, and he thought, oh my God, now Prabhupada's going to really blast us. What are you keeping this cat for? And Prabhupada reached down and started petting the cat. And Prabhupada told him, see, there's also love here in this material world as well.
I want to ask you, just when you talk about, again, Srila Prabhupada, who I meditate on from time to time, what if you find or heard words of Srila Prabhupada from another acharya who is actually not your Diksha Guru?
We want to go wherever Krishna comes. And sometimes Krishna appears in strange places because Krishna's crooked. And wherever he comes, we want to go there. In general, Narahari Sakar, in his book Krishna Bhajanamrita, he's given instructions for the devotees that we have a special relationship with our Diksha Guru, and that relationship is hopefully it's a heartfelt one, but at least it's a formal one. He's that person who connects us to the parampara. When we do arti to the deities, we have his picture there. He's our official connection. The Diksha Guru is our Sambandha Datta. And therefore Narahari Sakar, he says that when if we meet someone else we're inspired by, that's okay, but officially we should go to our Diksha Guru and take blessings from him, to go and hear from that person. My Guru Maharaj also commented like that's a natural thing. Because otherwise we may just become, we may take things in a very simple way, in a cheap kind of way, in a sentimental way, and just start going here and there, and we may not appreciate what we've gotten from our Diksha Guru. We have a special relationship with him. And even in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, his Diksha Guru wasn't his main person. His main person was his Siksha Guru. but he always honored that relationship with his Diksha Guru. So we want to do like that also. Opportunist, maybe. Yeah. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you. I will think about it. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Viren Prabhu, would you like to share something?
So, can you hear me, Prabhu? You're going to have difficulty seeing me in load shedding.
Well, mainly we get to hear your sweet voice, so that'll make us happy.
Yeah, I don't know if this is working. Can you see?
Yeah.
All right, I'll put the videos. Yeah, Prabhu, also for me, appreciation for the class and just the topic that was discussed. And I think the one point that really resonated with me, and I want to hear again, is just, I particularly love the part how, you said you went to meet Srila Prabhupada, but you got to meet Srila Prabhupada through your guru. And that really had a deep impact on me. So thank you for that, Prabhu. It's given me some sort of something to think about. And yeah, I really appreciate that. But other than that, yeah, deep appreciation for the class. And also, yeah, I enjoyed the points made by Gauranitai Prabhu. So thanks, Prabhu.
We want to meet Srila Prabhupada, and devotees are always telling us that Prabhupada's present in his books. Prabhupada said, I'm not different from ISKCON. Prabhupada's in the GBC, Prabhupada's in his deity. But one place that Prabhupada is especially present, which sometimes sadly and shockingly devotees don't stress, is that Prabhupada is in his dear disciples. He's in the heart of those devotees who have surrendered to him, given their lives to him, and served him in so many different ways. And we can meet Srila Prabhupada in their heart if we melt their heart by serving them, by pleasing them, by serving Prabhupada's mission. We can meet the Prabhupada they have in their heart. And the Prabhupada that's in one person's heart may be a little different from the Prabhupada in another person's heart also. So we want to meet the Prabhupada that we're attracted by. So, thank you very much, Prabhu. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
And Krishna Balan Prabhu, would you like to share something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks. It's good class. Appreciated it. I think there was one point that I was thinking about as you spoke about, and that is, sometimes you have these thoughts or revelations, or even you experience something, and I take the point that these things are close to the heart, and we should keep it within the heart. And but sometimes we have a tendency to want to share, to inspire others. How do you reconcile that? Thanks, Prabhu.
Yeah, well, we should be careful and not end up just cheaply advertising our bhajan or cheaply advertising our relationship with our guru to everyone. It's a fact that it's inspiring to devotees. Srila Prabhupada, when he would give class, he would sometimes speak about his childhood or his father, or different things in his life, and devotees are always very inspired to hear something personal. In fact, I would even go so far as to say, if you give a class and all that you do is you just quote Shastra, then it may be a bit too theoretical, and devotees may not really appreciate it. But if you can say in the class how you met your Guru Maharaj, or some particular inspiration you got in your personal life, or some personal realization you had from this or from that, then that makes it relevant for all of us. And that makes it very, very special. Not that there's anything wrong with quoting Shastra, and we should do that, but not everybody's on that level, and we want to hear something personal. But there's a danger also that we want to be very careful and not advertise too much. And I'll say something a little bold. It's kind of a funny mix of things in our society, a paradox, that that thing which I find some of the times the most inspirational is also sometimes something which is often misused, and that is Prabhupada memories. Krishna Konan and I, when we take prasadam, a lot of times we just love to watch. We go to YouTube and we watch Prabhupada memories, and I get so much inspiration from watching those things and hearing the devotees speak about Prabhupada. And that's my connection with Prabhupada. But at the same time, something's happened in our society sometimes too, where some people, and I'm not pointing at anyone in particular, it's happened also with some of my godbrothers, and maybe with me, Hare Krishna, that we take the relationship that we had with Prabhupada, with some great personality, and we want to advertise that. And we want to post photographs of myself with Gurudev, with Prabhupada, and instead of talking about the Bhagavatam, our whole entire class becomes, and Prabhupada told me, and I was with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said to me, and I was there, and I remember, and it becomes more I. And my Guru Maharaj, personally, that's something that really struck me very deeply about him when I met him, is that he didn't speak a lot about Srila Prabhupada, sometimes, but not so much. Rather, he would generally speak Shastra. And I hadn't seen that so much. So there can be kind of a danger, and I'm saying it in a very careful way because I don't mean to in any way belittle or minimize Prabhupada's disciples. We love them. But I see the same thing with some of my godbrothers now that my Guru Maharaj is gone. And I see the same thing, Krishna Balam, you may see the same thing with some of your godbrothers. Somebody who wants to advertise, yes, I was Gurudev's personal servant. I'm very close with Gurudev. I know Gurudev very well. If you want to come to Gurudev, you have to come to me. Through me. There's always some persons who do like that. And there's a great danger in that. And the danger is both for our society and for us as individuals. If we cheaply take the relationship, that loving relationship we had with our Guru, and we want to market it and use it to promote myself, then we're just going to get something very, very cheap. But it's a very ironic kind of thing, because at the same time it's very paradoxical, because it's also the sweetest thing. We really love to hear about Srila Prabhupada, and I'm not suggesting that devotees should start shaking their finger at people who are speaking about Prabhupada. But in our society, as Janananda Maharaj once commented, he said that sometimes I hear devotees speaking about how we should be Prabhupada conscious. He said, but when I joined, and he joined in the 70s, he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He said, when I joined, there was never any question about being Prabhupada conscious. We were all supposed to be Krishna conscious. And we knew that's what would please Srila Prabhupada. And that's Srila Prabhupada's glory, that Prabhupada came and spoke about Krishna. And naturally, devotees love Prabhupada. And they want to speak about him. And we love to hear about him. And it's very important for our society also. But that's not complete, in my humble estimation. Not complete in the sense that Srila Prabhupada didn't tell us to do that. Srila Prabhupada told us, you quote the Bhagavatam, you quote Bhagavad Gita, you quote Shastra, you speak from Shastra, you speak from my books. And sometimes I see devotees, instead of that, they just tell stories about Srila Prabhupada. So we should be careful and not cheaply sell a relationship with our Guru. And therefore we say, Gopayad Guru Matmanaha. Don't just try to advertise our relationship with our Guru. Is that helpful, Krishna Balan Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
It's a very subtle and important topic.
I have a question, but what if Guru like this advertisement of his relationship with particular disciples? I mean, of disciples with him.
I didn't quite understand it. What if Guru likes it that you're glorifying him?
Not me, but some disciple glorifying him in front of everybody and proud of that, and this make from this advertisement, a show, and Guru like it. A lot of I saw things like that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Well, 2 points are there, and this is something you'll always hear me speak about, because I really don't like to. I like to point out that there's always 2 sides to everything, and it's not enough just to point out one of the sides. So on one side, that's a detrimental thing, that we may end up advertising ourselves. But on the other side, we see sometimes Srila Prabhupada, he told devotees that you should glorify me. He chastised devotees sometimes. That what you gave a talk, you gave this lecture, you didn't even mention your guru. Now someone may think, well, why in the world is Prabhupada speaking like that? Does Prabhupada just want some cheap adoration, distinction or something? In the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 19, text 39, there's a nice verse that describes that sometimes we see bona fide spiritual masters allow themselves to be advertised in order to preach. This is from the purport. However, this is done in service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such personalities are not materially desirous of receiving prestige from their disciples. The dakshina, gift that the guru wants, is Jnana Sandesh, the sincere search for spiritual knowledge. So sometimes the guru does that. Srila Prabhupada did something which had basically never been done before in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He said that everybody should come in front of the deities yet, and every day in front of the deities do Guru Puja. That was never done. In fact, it's directly against Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which says you should not worship someone in front of the deities. So Prabhupada said you should do it, and Prabhupada stressed all the devotees should do it. So we do like that because Srila Prabhupada instructed us. And by doing that, it brings us all together. And at the same time, it's a little awkward in some ways, to be very frank, because some devotees, and they're going to put more stress on Prabhupada that may come, and they may think, I don't need a guru, I just have Prabhupada. And then we have some Ludwig kind of mood. And that, I think, may always be there, because that's a natural tendency which will come up when we start doing this. But if we see the temples traditionally in Vrindavan, if you go to the Radha Damodar temple today, just in front of the deities of Radha Damodar, you'll find deities of the 6 Goswamis off to the side. But those were only put there 2 or 3 years ago. That's a very recent thing. And I was personally a little disappointed when they did that. I can see having deities of the Goswamis in their Bhajan Kuta or their Samadhis, but not on the altar, because Krishna is Samasti Guru and Vyasti Guru. Krishna is Samasti Guru, he's a sum total of all gurus, and everybody goes to see Radha Damodar. Everybody has a connection with him. But as a Vyasti Guru, not everybody is a follower of Rupa Goswami. Some people may be followers of Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, and they're not followers of Rupa Goswami. But they can still come and have darshan of Radha Damodar. They have a connection for him. So guru, our particular guru, is not necessarily for everyone. And that's a little bit of a sensitive issue, I know, in ISKCON, because for us, Prabhupada is there for everyone in our society. But it's not that Prabhupada's the only guru. Prabhupada says in one purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that ISKCON is one branch of the Chaitanya tree. And there's many different branches. It's not that and Prabhupada said, my godbrothers, they also went back to God, they're also Vaishnavas. We should be broad-minded like that, but we should be one-pointed at the same time with Srila Prabhupada as our Param Guru, our grandfather. We have this connection with him, but not fanatical and hateful. We should understand there are other Vaishnavas. Is that helpful, Bhajabanitam?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Krishna Balaram, anything else you want to share?
I'm good, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. How about Nanda Rani? Would you like to share anything? You there?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the interesting class. I think there's a lot of points that are floating in my head that I just need to put together. But one of the points that you mentioned just now about, well, I heard a devotee mention that they were a part of the inner circle of disciples of a certain guru. And I was just wondering about that. It was actually interesting to me to hear that. And I think it was connected to the fact that one of the gurus had mentioned that Lord Chaitanya had some sort of inner circle of devotees, and so there's this inner circle of disciples. I don't know how that class went. Yeah, so I just actually wanted to ask you about that.
Well, look in your life. You have an external circle of friends. You have some people that you see them once a week at the Sunday feast or something, and you help cut vegetables together, make garlands, or do some service for Rath Yatra or something, but you don't see them very often. But then you have an inner circle of friends who are close with you. That's natural for everyone. Everyone has that. Mahaprabhu also has that. Guru also has that. But at the same time, that's not something that we advertise. And we see devotees in gambhira-lila. We see what's his name, Ramachandra Puri, was advertising to everyone that he's a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, and implying that I'm a very intimate disciple of Madhavendra Puri, but actually he was just a rascal. But Mahaprabhu taught us how to respect him. He taught us how to respect Ramachandra Puri. He bowed his head, "Oh, I'm so very fortunate, you're giving me instructions, thank you very much." But then other times he would just ignore him. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu, that is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Taipa was written something. I have a question in connection with the inner circle of a guru. What about the personal servant of Lord Chaitanya? How they took part in the mood of the Gambhira, and what was their qualification to be in the inner circle? Well, Mahaprabhu has intimate associates, and we want to find those associates. We want to find the intimate associates of our Gurudev. But not everybody is going to have the same view. Some devotees, they see they see Tamal Krishna Maharaj as the most intimate. Some people see Jayapataka Maharaj as the most intimate. Some people see Shivaram Maharaj as the most intimate. And the amazing thing is they're all correct. Because Srila Prabhupada is such a personality, he'll manifest in different ways. So we want to find someone who's in that inner circle. But how do we know who's in that inner circle? That's going to be something which is going to be dependent on our heart. If we have some qualification through crying and through chanting sincerely, we'll meet that person. I hope that's helpful, Bhani Taipu. Kripa Sindhu Prabhu, would you like to share something?
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
One of the points that I really liked was the story on Ganga, where Narottam, the frog story was really nice. And then after that, you mentioned Narottam Das Thakur was discouraging people to move around. Did I understand that right, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah. In one of his bhajans, Ebaro Kuruna Kuru, he says, people take dips in Ganga to purify themselves, but just by the sight of Vaishnavas, a lot of sins go away. Like you get purified just by the sight of a Vaishnava. So that reminded me of that point you were mentioning. My question to you, Prabhu, like the most recent discussions on hiding Guru. Sometimes my senior godbrothers, they share pastimes of my Guru Maharaj, and it just makes me feel like I get closer to my Guru Maharaj. So and also I remember like Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Swami Maharaj, he wrote a nice Sanskrit poem glorifying Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and was read out loud. And then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was saying that this is how you should glorify your spiritual master. Like he was pleased by that action. So sometimes glorification is okay with the inner, maybe with your god brothers, god sisters. Is that okay with god brothers and god sisters, or during the Vyasa Puja celebration? Like, what is considered a
it should be an intimate sangha. So with your Gurudev, if you go to some places in Vrindavan and Loy Bazaar, if you go to some places in Mayapur and you just start saying, my Gurudev this, and you start telling about your Gurudev to people, there's a good chance you're going to meet someone who's going to tell you some they may be an envious person, they may be very hateful, and they may say something and you're going to be hurt by that. So it's better that you're careful. It's correct that those kind of kathas are very nourishing for us. We want to hear that kind of katha, but that's for a very intimate group of devotees. And in general, we shouldn't, when Sanatana Goswami quotes Samoyan Tantra and he says that Gopaya Gurum Atmanaha, we should hide our guru. That means just if you hide something, you don't tell everybody, but maybe you tell your wife, right? Or maybe you tell your best friend. And so hiding something doesn't mean you don't tell anybody, but hiding something means you only share it with some very privileged person. And it doesn't mean that I don't say anything about my Gurudev, but I'm very, very careful. I'll give you an example from myself that in Mayapur, since 1996, I've been doing a disappearance festival for my Guru Maharaj. I've been the MC for it. And I wanted to do something which is very appropriate for all the devotees. And because honestly, it's a mixed crowd. And some devotees are very reverential for our Guru Maharaj. Some Prabhupada disciples, they speak of him as Gurudev even. But some devotees become annoyed with that. And some of them think, well, he's a nice Vaishnava, but why are you speaking like this? We have Prabhupada and things. And so I want to be the MC. I want to try to make everyone happy. It's a very difficult position, I can tell you in Mayapur. So especially in the first years, I would not say, I would use my Guru Maharaj's name. I would say, and he did this and he did that, and I would speak his name, which generally I don't do. Now, over the years, things have changed a little bit again, and the programs we have are a little more intimate. The devotees know us a little more. I feel a little more free. I speak. I try to mix it, and I say, Gurudev said this, or my Guru Maharaj said this, and I'll speak like that. But my point is that although Shastra says I shouldn't say the name of my Guru, at the same time, I don't want to do something which is going to create some envy amongst some people, because that may hurt me in a very terrible way, and it's just poison. I don't like hearing criticism of any Vaishnavas. It's the worst, most terrible thing. Raghunath Das Goswami, if he started hearing somebody speak bad about the Vaishnavas, he would just get up and leave. And we should be like that also. Is that helpful, Kripasundar Prabhu?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. And one last thing, I really, really wanted to meet Gauragovinda Maharaj, but he left when I was like very, very young. And I'm really appreciating your Sangha because I feel like I'm meeting him through your intimate katha. It's very sweet of you speaking of Gaura-lila and the innermost secrets. So really appreciate.
There's a light which energizes all of us, but unfortunately it comes through a colored lens of our conditioning. And sometimes that light, in some persons it comes through very strongly, and some people it doesn't come through very much. But we want to find that light. We want to find that inspiration. When we find it strongly, that's where we want to go. Anyway, I wish I could be a better source of that light. Thank you, Prabhuji. Krishna. Siddha Hari Prabhu, do you want to share something?
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I wanted to again share my appreciation. Thank you for doing this class. This has also been a complaint of me that often in Krishna conscious movement we hear so many superficial topics being repeated again and again. Not superficial, I guess a beginner's topic being repeated again and again, whereas there are very few intimate sanghas where we can hear more details of what's really happening with Mahaprabhu. And I really appreciate your class for that matter. Like recently I was reading Embankment of Separation and gave me a very new perspective on how to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It solved a long quandary of me which I had, and I'm finding a similar hope in your classes too, and that we're discussing these topics which we don't hear anywhere else at all. So thank you for doing this. I'm grateful to you for that. And I had a question. I'm taking a step back from Gambhira and just taking a whole Puri as a whole? Maybe you have already answered this question in some of your previous classes, but we hear in CC in chapter 17 of Madhya-lila, it's mentioned that when Mahaprabhu used to think about Vrindavan, his ecstasy used to increase by 100-fold. When he reached Mathura, his ecstasy increased 1,000 times. And when he reached Vrindavan, his ecstasy increased 10,000 times. So, where does Puri fit in this, in regards to him going to Vrindavan, and then what happens to him there? Have you discussed this in some of your previous classes?
A lot of you, I'm going to tell a little anecdote that a lot of you may have heard. I was asked to give class one year during Kartik in the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan. And I was nervous because I knew there's about 8 or 10 sannyasis coming every day and like a few hundred devotees, a big crowd of senior devotees. So I really prepared very carefully for the class. And I was preparing right up before the class, and I came just about 5 minutes before the class started. And I looked at the board, which had the verse written on it in my name, and I realized I prepared for the wrong verse. And oh my God. And I looked around, and there was Sachinanda Maharaj. And I went to him. I'm such a duplicitous person, I'm sorry. I went to Maharaj and I said, Maharaj, you should give the class. I don't want to speak in front of you. And Maharaj said, no, Madhavan, I came and wanted to hear you. And I said, well, Maharaj, I'll tell you the truth. I prepared for the wrong verse. I don't know what to do. And then Sachinanda Maharaj told me, he says, anyway, Madhavan, just speak about Jagannath Puri. Okay. So I sat down and somehow I directed the class and spoke something about Jagannath Puri. And it went really good, and everybody really liked it. At the end of the class, all of a sudden, I saw someone come flying into the side door and running up and kind of slid and raised his hand real quick with a question. That person was Ayendra Prabhu. And his question was exactly what you just said. He said, how can you say that Jagannath Puri is like Vrindavan, which is what I was saying? And then when Mahaprabhu, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, when he left Jagannath Puri, his ecstasy increased 100 times. When he reached Mathura, it increased 1,000 times more than that. And when he reached Vrindavan, it increased 100,000 times more. So what do you say about that? Ayendra Prabhu was so attached to Vrindavan. And I said, well, where did he go after Vrindavan? He went back to Jagannath Puri. And there's a whole reason for that, because, and Kaviraj Goswami describes that it was in Jagannath Puri that he was able to satisfy his 3 desires. So, Araja Bhagavan Bhaje Satanayas Tadama Vrindavanam Ramya Kacharipasana Bhaja Viduvagena Yakalpita. This is the attitude of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vrindavan is everything. And Ayendra Prabhu is 100% correct. But we should understand the position of Jagannath Puri, that Jagannath Puri is Gupta Vrindavan. It's a chamber of Vrindavan. And Prabhupada and our acharyas have described in many different places, and it's a whole other katha to get into that, how Jagannath Puri is a chamber of Vrindavan. There's 3 places Prabhupada writes in one purport. Navadvip Dham, Vrindavan Dham, and Jagannath Puri Dham are all 3 non-different. They're all 3 rooms in the same house. Nilachala Navadvipa Jay Duegar. Sachimata says Navadvip and Jagannath Puri are 2 rooms in the same house. They're both places in Vrindavan, but they serve different purposes. And I learned a lesson that day that when I'm in Vrindavan, I should be careful not to hurt the heart of the Brijbasis, the devotees who love Vrindavan, and talk about some other dham. So now when I go to Mayapur or Vrindavan, I try not to talk so much about Jagannath Puri. I don't want to hurt the heart of someone like Ayendra Prabhu. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. I heard that before also, but it's always relishing to hear again from you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, let's see.
Sorry, Prabhu. I was saying I had heard this before, but it was very relishable to hear it again. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I have one more question though. This is a question which is similar to what Gaunitha Prabhu was also asked. You would mention while replying to him that Govinda had the opportunity to serve Mahaprabhu in Gambhira, and you mentioned as a very small note that he got that qualification because of his personal service to Ishwar Puri. Now, I was wondering this topic of Vapu Seva to spiritual master.
what is the best way of doing it? Because I was recently serving my Guru Maharaj for a week or for a week or so, and I find it very difficult to have proper mood. And I was wondering if you can shed some light on this, that what kind of service did Govinda do to his spiritual master, which earned him this ticket to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Gambhira?
That's an interesting question. We know Ishwara Puri. Let's use him as an example. He was serving, he was doing Prasanga Rup Seva. Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sundarbha says there's Vani Seva and there's Prasanga Rup Seva. There's service that we do to the body of the Guru. And it's not that we listen to Gurudev's kathas and wow, that's really wonderful and thank you so much, Gurudev, and we just want to focus on your katha. And then if Gurudev comes to America or something, we just say, well, Gurudev, I'm just focused on your katha. I'm not going to be an external person and help you with your body. I'm not going to take care of trying to place you to sleep, get you prasadam, make sure that your body's comfortable. We're a hypocrite in that case. That Prasanga Rup Seva is also very, very important. And we can see that in the devotees who had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada. I was very fortunate to have a good amount of association with Brahmananda Prabhu. And somehow he was very affectionate to me. And when you would hear Brahmananda speak about Srila Prabhupada, it was like, oh my God, the lights are on. And then the other times, sometimes you'd hear from some disciple, Srila Prabhupada, who actually never met Prabhupada, but they got initiated. And they would have beautiful realizations about Prabhupada based on their service to Prabhupada and their surrender. But for me, it was never the same as hearing from Brahmananda, or someone who had so much personal association with Prabhupada. So we should never minimize that Prasanga Rup Seva. That's also very, very important seva. And we see in the case of Ishwara Puri and Ramachandra Puri. Ramachandra Puri was just quoting verses to Madhavendra Puri and telling him, Nasochati, Nakamsati, Samas, don't lament, don't hanker, just Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, think about Brahman. He was quoting Shastra. And Madhavendra Puri became angry with him and told him, you go away, I don't want to see your face. But on the other hand, Ishwara Puri, what was he doing? He was cleaning the stool of Madhavendra Puri. He was doing a very, very humble service. And he pleased Madhavendra Puri so much that he gave him this ashirvad that he would have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his disciple. And that's how we had the disciple Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is that helpful, Siddha Hari Prabhu? You still there? Okay. Hare Krishna. Lila Purushottam Prabhu, are you there? You want to share something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, I want to first thank you that you allowed us to participate in this Sunday Sangha. It's so nice to be here with the devotees from Saudi.
You be nice to Krishna Balaram and Nandarani and these devotees from South Africa. They're very, very special and sweet.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear their reflections and your answer to their questions. It's wonderful. First, maybe until I have it fresh, I want to comment my personal thing on your story with Indra Prabhu, because for me, you can understand that I ended up in a funny situation, considering you both my spiritual masters. So I was thinking, like, because I know that story for quite some time already. So I was thinking, hey, how do I reconcile this thing? And for me, I was really satisfied when I came to the like understand. The whole story for me glorifies. Oh, you can hear me?
Now we hear you again, but you went out for a while. I feel very satisfied. into, and then you disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, that regardless the tattva, totally like do not consider the tattva at all. For me, the story shows like glorifies you both actually with your dham nishta, you know, like Indra Prabhu's dham nishta for for Vrindavan, and your absorption in Jagannath Puri and the moods of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And so when I came to this point, I was like, yeah, this is satisfying, this is perfect. Okay, that was one thing. And then I was thinking right on the beginning, actually, maybe even more on the beginning, I was thinking, but when you were speaking about those, you know, Indians desiring to go to the cities and like that. So I was thinking, actually, I'm quite opposite case. I'm, you know, city boy born in Prague, happily moved to countryside. But still, I have to admit that when I was moving to countryside, my ideas were like quite different. What's the reality for me now? You know, I was like, yeah, we're gonna be self-sufficient and everything, and we'll live off grid and this thing and that thing. And as the years passed, you were really confronted with limitations. Born with you, like really being born city boy, you have your limits. And I had to figure out how to deal with it, being happy on the countryside, but still being sensitive to those conditionings actually. So that was, yeah. You wanted to say something?
I'm a little embarrassed you comparing me to Ayendra Prabhu. I mean, he's such a personality. I'm not qualified to take the dust from his feet. But I do see that as an expression of his Dhammanishta, and I want to appreciate that, and I want to try to get his blessings. I was also appreciating your comments about the countryside and that, and how listen, there's this other reality when we come. I see devotees now. There's a transition in our society. Some devotees are thinking more about being self-sufficient and going to the countryside, and I see some, I think, rather neophyte devotees, sometimes they criticize certain communities. And so our community is really good because we're off the grid. We don't have any electricity, there's no computers, no nothing. We're hardcore. And all the women, they cover their head, and we're really Vedic and whatever like that. And then there's some other communities where they have like yoga classes, and you have all these outside people coming, and you have electricity and this and that, and that's not the real deal. But I think we should appreciate that there's going to be different communities, and we should find our community. And I appreciate places like New Brajadam. I appreciate places like the Govardhan Eco Village, which may not be what everybody thinks about as the ideal thing, because there's some electricity. Actually, New Brajadam, there's practically no electricity. In Govardhan Eco Village too. They generate all their electricity with solar panels completely. But what sometimes some devotees feel a little concerned about, there's so much like tourism, spiritual tourism. But what Shivaram Maharaj has accomplished in New Brajadam, what Radhanath Maharaj has accomplished in Govardhan Eco Village, they've managed to do something amazing. They've managed to create a community where city boys can go and stay in the country. And they feel inspired because there's something to do. There's some preaching going on and some activities going on. And that's why if we look around in ISKCON, the vast majority of our foreign communities have failed to one extent or another over the years, because devotees have all these, as you were saying, we have all these idealistic fantasies, and we go, it's going to be like this and this, and then we go there and it's hard reality. It's not so easy, and it's the comforts that I find in the city are not there, and this and this. But they, in their brilliance, Shivaram Maharaj and Radhanath Maharaj, they created a system where devotees can go from this, and they have some preaching to do. And then also people can come from the cities and they feel comfortable. And they can have an experience with the community. And I think that's really, really beautiful and very, very important. It's not the only way. There's other communities which won't do that. But it's not that one is better than the other. It's not that one is the only way.
Yeah, what I find especially disturbing sometimes, maybe it's because we maybe have some opportunities to face that phenomena here in our yatra, is when you get a feeling that there is a shift of the essence, I would call it. Like all of a sudden the essence is to live off grid and not to chant and hear Krishna Katha. You know, like our pride, being more Krishna conscious than you are, is because we live off grid. It makes absolutely no sense. So that might be disturbing, and I can see that it may even make create disturbance in the society of devotees, because it just shifts the focus from the essence to something totally external, actually. So that's just a little comment on it.
Just as different devotees marry different types of girls, someone will marry a girl from Czech, someone will marry a girl from America, someone will marry a girl from India or Hungary, whatever. Everybody has different tastes. We also have different tastes in different communities. And just as we shouldn't criticize someone's taste in the particular wife they take, we shouldn't criticize the community. But the essence of all the communities should be, how Krishna conscious are they? And again, I can tell you, New Brajadam, my God, Radhe Shyam are the center of everything. And the devotees are just so much in the Mangal Artik every day and worshiping Radhe Shyam in such a wonderful way. And the same thing in the Govardhan Eco Village. The devotees are so much in the kirtan there and so much in the worshiping the Lord. It's wonderful. That's the essential thing for me.
Yeah, I would think that in Western world it could represent those like old issues between the Goswami Vichar and Smarta Vichar, that would take that form for us nowadays, probably something like that.
You see, even amongst certain Vaishnavas, if you read the commentary of Madhusudan Saraswati, some people say he's a Vaishnava, some people say he's more of a Smarta, some people say he's an Advaitin. He's kind of a little bit of all three in a way. He's something of a Vaishnava at least, but he has some of these kind of Smartalinis, and there's always going to be some people like that, and they're part of our family, and we love them, but they may not be part of our intimate community. Or even in your community where you stay, you have external people and internal people also. I've seen it go. It's just a natural thing. We have communities, and then we have smaller communities. We need to cultivate that. Okay, keep going. Thank you, Prabhu. Krishna Kon, are you still there? I know that she's with her mother right now, and I think her sisters are there too. Her sister's there, and she may not be able to say anything.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. You want to watch anything?
I love the comment about prema, about how there is a Tirtha Yatra to prema. That was something that really kind of stayed with me. I was very happy today because I like hearing about the Gambhira very much. It's our home. I mean, it's not obviously yet, but it's so much. It was very special. I liked it very much. I liked the pictures that you showed about the shoes made by Vishnu Priya and the Kamandalu by Jagadananda Pandit and clothes by Sachimata and all these things. And I related to your comment about how we would want to go first and fix up our room, and Mahaprabhu is just running to Jagannath. And the devotees, of course, are running to Mahaprabhu first. It's just wherever the heart goes. I really like sorry. It's okay. I really like what you said about how Gurudev is not looking for big disciples with big qualifications, but the one qualification that he's looking for is devotees who really want to do kirtan for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu. So these were the most important parts for me.
For me, that's our gambhira, and you're saying the gambhira is our home. Gambhira is our what is it about the gambhira that's our home? And you and I have been to the gambhira so many times. One time we went to the gambhira, and with a group of devotees, and someone started taking pictures, and this fellow, this Babaji, came and started screaming at all of us and telling everybody to get out. And I became a little upset because these devotees are from China. They're very simple, sweet devotees. And I asked him, I said, Apananka Namki, what's your name? I said, Jamaraj, your name's Yamaraj. And he became so angry. And I didn't realize he was the new Mahant at the Gambhira. And he threw us out. And the next thing I know, I'm on my hands and knees in front of the door of the Gambhira praying to him. There's a whole crowd there, a whole scene. And they said, some people told him you should let them back in. And they did. So how is the Gambhira our home? Sometimes we go there and we may have an experience which is not so sweet always. But it's our home because there's bhajan there, there's heartfelt bhajan. That's where the home is. And that's where real community is. And that's the essence of that, like we're speaking about New Brajadam or New Govardhan. That's the essence of the community there, is their kirtan. That's the essence of our community. So that's our home. So thank you for reminding me that, Krishna Kun. And Gorni Taipa will comment, feeling the separation plus the hope that soon he'll reach the place, naturally increasing prema. Isn't that true? Isn't that the nature of prema? The nature of prema is that nature of separation is that increases our intensity of our desire to be with the beloved, and that increases our feelings so much, thousands and thousands of times over. And that's the purport of Jagannath Puri. It's the purport of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Jagannath Puri is Sri Ketra, and Sri means Sarva Angsini Radhika. It means Srimati Radharani. It's Radharani's place because that's the predominant mood. The mood there is a mood of separation. And Krishna has come as Mahaprabhu to taste Radharani's mood of separation, and he's crying in separation from Vrindavan. So Puri is Vrindavan, but it's not Vrindavan. It's a big topic. It's very paradoxical. Thank you, Krishna Kun. Chaitanya Prabhu, I'm sorry, we're keeping everybody so late tonight. I want to finish up. Do you want to, any last wise words, any comments or anything?
No, I think the interactions, Prabhu, have been so amazing just to see all the devotees' perspectives and the angles that are there are really exciting to see. It also helps us to, kind of align our thinking into the different categories of thinking that might be there and be able to dig deeper into the subject matter. So that's really encouraging for us. So thank you, Prabhu, for facilitating it in such a wonderful way. And having all the devotees on board like this is really great. So thank you for everybody for attending.
Thank you, Chaitanya. I really appreciate you helping to organize things very much. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there, and I think next Sunday we should be on the same time. It's really sweet and nice to see so many different devotees. So now it's like now we have two different rivers, the South African River and the Pariprashan River, and they're coming together. And it's a very, very sweet river. It's nice to see everybody here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Go Premanandi Hari Hari. Go Vancha.